United States intelligence thought they had Iran's drone program figured out. Then a pilot ejected over Iranian airspace and described something no one expected to find there. During Operation Epic Fury, the American air campaign against Iran, an F-15E Strike Eagle with call sign Dude 44 went down over Iranian territory on April 3, 2026. Special forces recovered the pilot within hours. The weapons systems officer evaded capture in the mountains for more than a day before he too was rescued. What brought Dude 44 down is still officially under investigation. President Trump said Iran, quote, got lucky with a shoulder-fired missile. Later reporting pointed to a Chinese-made man-portable air defense system. Neither account has been confirmed. His account from the debrief is the one the U.S. intelligence community has not been able to close. On June 23rd, a breaking news report revealed that in his final moments before ejecting, he described seeing multiple Iranian drones hovering above him, moving as one, in a formation that resembled a jellyfish. In his own words from the debrief, quote, real alien stuff. This formation has a name, one-to-many mesh networking. Rather than individual drones controlled by individual operators, a meshed swarm shares data across all nodes simultaneously, moving and responding as a single organism. There's no command center to destroy. Targeting one node tells you nothing about where the others are going. Jamming a single frequency does not collapse the network, because it does not depend on any single frequency. Every doctrine the U.S. military has built for defeating drones assumes a discrete emitter with a discrete signal. A meshed swarm has neither. China has been developing this capability for years and has demonstrated it at scale. Russia has been working toward it in Ukraine. Iran, as with every U.S. intelligence assessment before April 3rd, was not considered to have it. If Iran does have it now, the question is how. The same channels that moved Shahed drone technology from Iran to Russia appear to have run in the other direction, with Russian and Chinese expertise flowing back toward Tehran. This capability would not arrive as hardware. It would arrive as knowledge. The same transfer this report has traced in Ukraine and in Lebanon. Before evaluating what he saw, it helps to understand what he had just survived. The airspace that day was not a place where calm observation came easily. The rescue mission sent to retrieve Dude 44's crew flew into that same airspace in broad daylight. An A-10 Warthog supporting the operation took enough damage that its pilot determined it was not landable and ejected once back over friendly territory. The pilot himself adds another layer. He was concussed when he gave the account. It was his second shootdown of the war. The first came from friendly fire by Kuwaiti forces early in the conflict. A pilot who's been through 2 near-death experiences does not stop being a credible witness. He becomes a witness whose testimony carries weight inseparable from what the war has done to him. Intelligence officials asked him directly whether he was sure he saw what he was describing. He said he was sure. If Iran has operational mesh drone networking, the entire U.S. counter-drone playbook has a problem. Every jammer, every spoofer, every intercept system the military fields was built to find one signal and cut it. A swarm with no central signal and no single point of failure gives those systems nothing to grab. If Iran does not have it, the intelligence community is sitting with a first-hand account from a combat pilot it cannot explain and has not dismissed. Either way, the next pilot who flies into that airspace will not have the luxury of waiting for the analysis to settle. It took a war to convince the U.S. Air Force to buy back the plane it had just canceled. In late March 2026, at Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia, an Iranian strike destroyed a parked U.S. Air Force E-3 Sentry on the ground, marking the first combat loss of a Sentry in the aircraft's 50-year history. As it burned, the Air Force lost one of 16 aircraft responsible for managing the entire air picture over one of the most contested skies on the entire planet. First flying in 1972 on a Boeing 707 airframe from the 1950s, the E-3 Sentry carries a rotating radar dome that watches everything in the air within 250 miles, tracks hundreds of targets simultaneously, and tells every aircraft in the theater who is where. Without it, fighter pilots are flying partially blind. With it, a modern air campaign becomes coordinated. For years, the Air Force has known the E-3 fleet was aging past its limits. Maintenance demands have been climbing, readiness rates falling, and the aircraft have been pushed into operational deployments they were never designed to sustain. Its planned replacement was the E-7 Wedgetail, a Boeing 737 fitted with a fixed multi-role electronically scanned array radar that does everything the E-3 does and considerably more, without the mechanical complexity of a rotating dome. Australia, South Korea, and Turkey already fly it. The UK is fielding a fleet. The US Air Force ordered its first jets, and then in its proposed budget last year, canceled the program entirely. Cost and delay were the stated reasons. The replacement on offer was the Navy's E-2D Advanced Hawkeye, a carrier-based aircraft already flying combat operations with the Navy and proven in active service. The Air Force would buy more of those instead. Congress disagreed, appropriated over $1 billion to keep the Wedgetail alive, and the fight moved to the next budget cycle. Operation Epic Fury changed that. Following the loss of an E-3 less than a month after the fleet arrived in Saudi Arabia, the remaining aircraft were overloaded across a live air war against one of the most drone and missile-capable countries in the region. Pentagon and Air Force officials told Congress the E-7 was now a priority. The White House proposed funding the revival by taking $898 million from an Air Force procurement account and $650 million from the Navy's E-2D budget. The plane that had been chosen as the replacement was now being repaired to cover the cost of the original. On June 25th, the House Appropriations Committee pushed back, restoring E-2D purchases to 6 aircraft for fiscal year 2027, while keeping the Wedgetail funding in place. The full bill still has to move through the Senate and reach the President's desk. But nothing in this amendment changes the timeline. The Wedgetail will not reach initial operational capability until at least 2032, a date already 5 years behind the original target. Meanwhile, the E-3 fleet, now down to only 15 aircraft, will carry the mission until then, on a maintenance pipeline already strained before the war started. The Air Force knew the E-3 was running out of time. That is precisely why the E-7 existed. Canceling it was a cost decision. The war made it a capability decision. Until then, 15 aging aircraft are doing a job they were never built to sustain, in a region that has already proved it will not wait for anybody. Israel has built its battlefield edge on a simple premise. The technological superiority, maintained aggressively enough, makes every problem solvable, which is why it did not see the $400 drone coming. Since March 2026, Hezbollah, the Iran-backed armed group operating in southern Lebanon, has been deploying fiber-optic first-person view drones against Israeli forces in southern Lebanon. The technology is not new. What makes it different from every other drone Israel has faced is physical. A standard FPV drone communicates with its operator via radio frequency signals broadcast through the air, which can be detected, jammed, or severed. A fiber-optic FPV drone communicates through a spool of cable that unwinds behind it as it flies, maintaining a direct physical link between operator and aircraft from launch to impact. There is no signal in the air to jam. There's no frequency to target. The drone follows the cable, and the cable follows the operator, and electronic warfare has nothing to grab onto. Each drone costs between $300 and $400. Hezbollah builds them locally using 3D printers and civilian electronics components. In late March 2026, the group released footage of one of them destroying an Israeli tank in southern Lebanon. First confirmed use of the technology in that theater. Not a test, a capability already running. The path this technology traveled to get there is documented. Fiber-optic FPV tactics were developed and refined in Ukraine, where operators learned that radio frequency drones were increasingly vulnerable to Russian jamming and adapted accordingly. Russia, observing and absorbing those adaptations, passed expertise to Iran through the same channels that had previously carried Shahed drone technology in the other direction. Iran passed it to Hezbollah. A technique that emerged from a European land war arrived in the hills of southern Lebanon in under 2 years, manufactured locally for less than the cost of a tank's fuel load. The same pipeline has delivered a navigation system to a North Korean shipyard and a jamming network to Ukrainian fields. The technology moves faster than the threat assessments written about it. The existing countermeasures are imperfect by design. Nets can catch low-flying drones, but require positioning and advanced warning. Acoustic sensors can detect the sound of an approaching aircraft, but give seconds, not minutes. Spinning cable systems can sever a fiber-optic tether, but only if they're placed directly in the drone's path. Electromagnetic systems, the most instinctive response, risk disrupting a force's own communications and sensors in the same operational zone. The defense creates new vulnerabilities in the act of defending. Solutions remain limited, even for large, well-resourced armies. The $400 drone lacks a reliable counter. What makes this significant beyond the Lebanon theater is the source of the failure. Israel is not a military that ignores drone development. It tracks it, studies it, and adapts to it faster than almost any other force on Earth. Samuel Bendit, a defense analyst at the Center for Naval Analyses, puts it plainly, quote, "It was rather surprising to see the Israeli military not fully accounting for the potential use of these drones." It's not that Israel did not know fiber-optic drones existed. What it did not account for was Hezbollah building them locally. When the Assad regime fell and supply lines from Syria were cut, the group did not lose its capability. It rebuilt it from civilian components and 3D printers. No intelligence network flags that. No embargo stops it. The threat did not arrive through a known channel. It was manufactured in a garage. The United States has spent $2.1 trillion building a fighter jet it could not fully operate, equipped with a radar it has not yet built, cooled by a system that cannot support it. Built to enter heavily contested airspace, locate and destroy targets, suppress enemy air defenses, and share its sensor picture with every other platform in the theater. The F-35 Joint Strike Fighter is set to be the very backbone of American air power for the next 50 years. Its primary sensor, the AN/APG-85, is not an accessory. It fuses with the electronic warfare suite, feeds the targeting system, and gives the pilot the picture that makes everything else possible. Without it, the F-35 is a stealth airframe with a hole where its eyes are supposed to be. At a Senate Armed Services Committee hearing on June 24, 2026, Lieutenant General Gregory Mazziello, head of the F-35 Joint Program Office, confirmed that the U.S. military has accepted 6 F-35Bs for the Marine Corps with no radar installed. Production units are not expected before April 2028. On June 26th, the War Zone confirmed the details publicly for the first time. Senator Mark Kelly, a retired naval aviator, pressed Mazziello directly, quote, "I cannot imagine a scenario where an F-35 with no radar could be a fully mission-capable airplane." From there, Mazziello did not push back. In a report released June 12th, the Government Accountability Office found that the average F-35 full mission-capable rate fell from 38 to 25% between fiscal years 2020 and 2025. Disputed by the Joint Program Office, which puts the figure at 56%, the two institutions are looking at the same fleet and seeing completely different aircraft. What neither disputes is that the number is moving in the wrong direction. Underneath the radar delay is a cooling problem. Current power and thermal management provide approximately 30 kilowatts of capacity. Block 4 requires 32. Running the APG-85 at full capability requires between 62 and 80. Mazziello confirmed at the June 24th hearing that if the entire Block 4 is installed, it takes the full available power. No margin. The fix will not be fielded before 2031, meaning even when the radar arrives in 2028, the aircraft may not be able to run it at full capability. Without a radar, an F-35 can still share targeting data from other jets in the same formation over its data link, but that dependency eliminates tactical flexibility. Flying alone into contested airspace is no longer an option. Marines are accepting that constraint in writing, on jets that cost over $100 million each. Block 4 was supposed to arrive this year. It's already 5 years behind. The hardware that mounts the new radar does not fit the jets already delivered, so those planes cannot be retrofitted when the sensor finally exists. Parts are running short. The readiness numbers are getting worse. F-35s flew combat missions over Iran this spring, on the same radar the program has used since the 1990s. The new one has no delivery date anyone agrees on, no cooling system to run it, and as of yet, no production line. At $2.1 trillion, the most expensive weapons program in history is, for now, making do.